Tier 1, Chapter 14. I'm not going to say much about this chapter. By the end of it, you're going to have a lot of questions.
Chapter 14. The boys and I are waiting in the community room of the mentoring center when I see Eric walk in. Finally. I was honestly worried he was going to miss the meeting. I shoot up from my seat and walk quickly to him, trying not to make a scene. We embrace, and something in his kiss feels desperate. "I missed you so much," he whispers. "Me too." "Dad!" the boys yell as they jump off their bench and run over to hug his legs. "Hey, I missed you guys," Eric laughs, bending down to wrap his arms around them. He pulls out 2 miniature objects. I can't see exactly what they are, but the boys' faces light up. "They're programmable," Eric says. I guess I shouldn't have knocked, finding something cool at headquarters. The boys are ecstatic. In that moment, I hear our last name called across the room and see the receptionist looking our direction. "Ooh, guys, it's our turn. Grab your water bottles and let's go," I direct. The boys run to gather their things, and we walk as a family toward the meeting room. "Is this Bentley?" a woman asks. Bentley smiles shyly. "I'd like to introduce you to someone. This is Nick." I stop dead. Nick? My Nick? That's ridiculous. He's not my Nick. I mean that Nick. I look over and see that it's him. I flash back to our conversation that first evening. How could he be matched up with Bentley? How could anyone have high enough markers to be a suitable match for Nick? After shaking hands with Eric, Nick squats down to greet Bent. When he stands up, his eyes meet mine. He smiles, unsure, and gives a small wave. My body unwillingly moves toward him, my mind still reeling, and I cannot coax my hands from my pockets. "Hey, Kate." "Hi." I look to Eric. "Nick has been my partner for creating those introductions for the ceremony," I explain. "Oh, you're that Nick? It didn't click when we walked in." Eric doesn't meet my eyes and seems distracted. Something has been off since the moment we met in the waiting room, but I can't put my finger on it. "I'm sure there are lots of Nicks," he says, then directs his attention to me. "I didn't find out that I had been selected as a mentor until earlier this week, otherwise I would have said something when we last met." The woman who first brought us in speaks up. "Technically, it wouldn't be considered protocol to give that information before this initial meeting anyway." "Of course, I wouldn't have dreamed of it," Nick says, winking in our direction, then squats down. "So Bentley, tell me a little about yourself." Bentley sits in a chair next to him and begins talking about all of his favorite things. Nick, noticing Tal's boredom, pulls up a game on his display and hands it to him. Based on Tal's expression, this scores him major points. Eric and I, lost in observation, eventually notice that we are being summoned. The woman at the desk waves us over to sign approvals. We are reminded that it is recommended for new mentors to have contact with our family at least 4 days a week for the first month or so. They need to bond with everyone, not just the child. We nod and listen, though having gone through this process with Tal makes it less important to absorb every detail. We know the drill. After talking with Bent, Nick agrees to come over the next day after conditioning to spend some time with us and have dinner at our place. On the way home, I am eager to hear how the boys felt about it. Perhaps that can solidify my unsteady experience. "He seems cool," Tal says nonchalantly. "Can Steven come over for dinner tomorrow too?" "Sure, I don't see why not," Eric answers. "I will message him and see if he's free." To me, he says, "I think that Steven might be pairing with someone. I've seen him with a blonde woman quite a few times over the last month." "That's great. It's about time." I turn my head toward the kids. "Bentley, what did you think about Nick?" "I like him," he says, observing the trees along the road. Sometimes it can just be that simple. I wish it were for me. Granted, I haven't had much time to process. On one hand, I am excited to have Nick as a resource. He may be one of the only people who can help Bentley on this journey. Plus, I know he is a good guy, so that's a relief. We got so lucky with Steven that I didn't even explore the possibility that we could end up with someone who didn't fit our family naturally. When I messaged Alyssa this morning and mentioned where we were headed, she referenced a slightly disconcerting experience they had with their oldest. Nothing terrible, but plenty of awkward family dinners. Though I assumed she wasn't trying to make me nervous, she did. Now that I know it's Nick, I don't necessarily see it as a negative, but I have so many unanswered questions. After the typical dinner, kids in bed, cleanup routine, Eric and I take a much-needed break on the couch together. I find myself mentally avoiding the whole mentoring situation, so I opt for asking about his research instead. We still haven't had a chance to catch up from his trip. How did the training go? Tell me about your last few days, I say as I lean back into his chest and rest my eyes. It was good. Same old, same old. Same old, same old? Seems like this is the first time you've ever done anything like this. How could it be same old? I nudge him, teasing. It is a new situation, but I just showed them the same thing we've been doing for years, so it feels same old to me. I was expecting to have Eric return energized and excited to share. Usually this stuff is so fun for him. So that's all I get? I was hoping for more detail. I don't know what else to say, Kate, he says, sighing, obviously exhausted. Maybe he's just overtired? This is definitely not the conversation I was expecting, but I try to summon compassion. You sound tired. Maybe we should go to bed? Or we could just spend some time together without talking? I stand up and pull on his arms good-naturedly, but he doesn't respond. I think we should go to bed. I'm really tired. He stands up and pats my shoulder, then walks down the hall. He's been gone for 3 days, and I get a pat on the shoulder? Seriously? I stay in the living room for a few minutes, seething. We never fight. I don't even remember the last time I felt the urge to yell at Eric, but right now I have it. I know part of it is that I feel overwhelmed by the whole mentoring situation, but thinking of that makes me even more frustrated. I need to talk it over with someone, and my go-to person isn't available. I force myself to take a few deep breaths and start naming facts to help my logical brain take over. My expectations are most likely the problem here, I rationalize. I thought he would come home, we would talk for hours, we would fool around, and all would feel like it was back in its proper place. I shouldn't have built up his return in my mind like that. I walk to the bedroom, ready to apologize to Eric, but when I get there, he is already asleep. So I stand there, desperate. Apparently I had expectations for my apology over having expectations.